have you heard about this universal basic income? Have you heard this term?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Sir, recently this term is in news because Sikkim has decided to go forward with universal cash transfer system for all its employees and unconditional, meaning even if the person is employed or unemployed, even if he earns in millions or if he is a below poverty line guy, every individual would get cash transfers from the government regularly after every regular period. So this is being termed as universal basic income, keeping an eye towards having a minimum lifestyle for everyone in the state.
So what is the meaning of this unconditional and universal?
Sir, unconditional, it is for everyone. So even if the guy is a multimillionaire, he would get that from the government. And even if he is a below poverty line, he would get that from the government. So unconditional and universal for everyone. So there is no condition attached. You do not have to be a below poverty line guy to get that benefit. So everyone would get that.
Everyone would get it. So how would it come into effect then?
So the roadmap is not very clear because it's the idea of the SDF, the Sikkim Democratic Front, the ruling party, is to implement it in 2022. So they have gone forward and they would include it into their manifesto of election for the next state elections. So what they have framed and what they are saying is that they would stop all the welfare schemes, the subsidy schemes, and divert these cash reserves towards this scheme. Also, Sikkim is Sikkim is only one of those very few states which has power surplus, and it is only a state which has 90%, which exports 90% of the power it produces. So there is a lot of cash reserve due to that. So they would divert this cash reserve towards paying this one.
So all the subsidies would be subsumed in this, you're saying?
Yes. So that's how they are planning it to do it. It's no other subsidy, only this cash reserve scheme would be there out in.
So the way I look at it, so even the rich would be getting the benefit of it.
Yes.
It's a good move. What do you think about it?
From the perspective of Sikkim, let's if take from the perspective of Sikkim has around 98% literacy rate. Only 8% of the population is below poverty line. The population is less. Okay, so the logistics would not be very very mind-boggling when vis-a-vis logistics of the same scheme in a state like Bihar or Uttar Pradesh, where it's a humongous population, huge percentage under below poverty line. So from that perspective, is it practical? Yes, it might be. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Would it serve any purpose? So that's one thing that comes to the question. So yes, there are some advantages to it that is on paper. For example, in one stroke, the subsidy schemes have a lot of leakage. This we have been seeing for the last 75 years after our independence. That there are bureaucratic leakages, there are implementation leakages. So corruption increases due to that. So so it does not reach those people who really deserve it. Now this would do what? And in one stroke, every citizen of Sikkim would be above poverty line.
But okay, this is fine. But
that is one advantage.
Yes, but if you look at it, why would I want to work then? If let's say I do not expect luxury in my life.
Yes, that's one con, and that's one of the biggest reason why it might be a failure. That people would become lazy. People would become demotivated.
Some people.
Maybe many people also. I mean, be demotivated that I am getting as much money to subsume to live my life. Why would I not work? Though the amount of the money is not decided, it would be just so much so that it can scrape you over the above poverty line. So that might be addressed by looking at the amount of money, because everyone would not be, or most of us would not be happy with a below standard life.
That's what I said. A few of them might be.
A few would still, but still it would be a good decision, even if a few does so. But overall, there is another advantage that can come. People would not be now concerned about the basic living stuff, and they might go on towards more creative pursuits. And who knows, we might get some amazing innovators and inventions from there. Most of the time people are not able to do that because they are into basic life.
What if I do not get successful? How would I earn my livelihood?
Yes, sir. That's it. That might be one of the advantages.
True, right. Can you think of any such example from a European country like that keep talking about such things?
Yes, see, sir, in European countries, time and again, unemployment benefits have been provided.
Yes.
Okay. So that has been a pretty regular feature out there. Finland had done a 2-year, 2017 to 2019 January, did a 2-year pilot for unemployed people on the same model. So they gave them money to live their life above poverty. I mean, a little, above poverty line, and so that they come out of it by their own methods. Canada has tried this for 3 provinces of it. But full-scale implementation for a whole state and for a long period of time, Sikkim is thinking about it. So
nobody has done it then.
Nobody has done it for a long period of time, and we also do not know that for how many years Sikkim is also planning. So we cannot say that Sikkim is planning for 10 years or 5 years. But
so
yes, 2-3 years.
2022 is what you're saying.
2022 it would be implemented.
The manifesto.
The manifesto would carry it, and if they come to power, they would implement it.
One very important point, one wonderful point that I saw in this answer was this last one, that let's say I'm somebody who likes to paint. Fine. Now I cannot pursue painting seriously because I think that agar bank ki tayari nahi kari aur painting bhi nahi chala, so I'll probably be struggling. I mean, how would I make the ends meet? Now this might ensure that I'll think, okay, I'll at least have stuff to eat. ऐसा तो नहीं होगा ना that I'll be starving, so that will not happen. At least this will ensure that. So that is one thing. That is one way in which it can help the state. It's a debatable issue. There can be so many arguments against it. Rich को क्यों दे रहे हो? उनको तरीका निकालो. They do not need it and all. And there can be so many arguments. But yes, it's still at a very, very nascent stage. You would not want to get into it, but have some opinion on this, because this is a matter on which they can ask you, tell me some 3 reasons that you think this should not be done, or tell me 3 good things about how it can help you. So that creativity wala thing, it's a very innovative point. I'm not saying copy it. Just think in a similar fashion, and then you'll get your own ideas. So, Ratnamba, have you heard of this triple talaq banning law? What is this? Tell us something about it.
Sir, triple talaq banning is a misnomer that is being used a lot of times by the media. It's instant triple talaq banning. So, there are 2 different things. These are 2 different forms
triple
of divorce.
And instant triple talaq are 2 different things.
Yes, sir.
Explain the difference first.
Sir, instant triple talaq is where this triple talaq and instant triple talaq, we are talking in the context of a Muslim couple, right? This is a part of the Muslim personal law. Now, instant triple talaq is that a man can divorce his wife by saying talaq 3 times. Not even saying, he can message talaq 3 times, he can write talaq 3 times, he can Skype and say talaq 3 times, and that would be considered as final and irrevocable instantly from that time. Now that is instant triple talaq.
What is triple talaq?
But triple talaq is where a man would say talaq once, After he says talaq, he would have to give 1 month, or the couple would get 1 month to sort out their differences.
Okay.
After 1 month, also if the man feels that the differences are not being sorted out, he can say talaq the second time. And then he will have to give at least another 2 months to sort out the differences. The families are also involved in it. The judge, the Qazi is also involved in making an amicable solution. Then after 2 months, that is 3 months from the first pronouncement of the first talaq, if the couple is not compatible, then the man can pronounce the third talaq and the divorce is finalized.
So that is very similar to the law of the Hindus.
Yes. That's
right. So you are saying that the ban has been, or the law is about banning the instant
triple talaq and not the triple talaq.
Right. So that is the exact situation. So what is the situation right now? If let's say somebody violates this,
sir, there is the instant triple talaq. The situation is that this instant triple talaq has been said by the court, that Supreme Court, that it is invalid. Okay. But a law of formulated law has not come till yet.
So if a person does it, would he be arrested? Let's talk straight.
Yes, he would be arrested, though a law has not been made. And
how does that happen then?
That happened, due to a lot of things that happened in between.
You can explain in detail.
Sir, thank you, sir. 2017 August, Supreme Court gave the judgment that instant triple talaq is banned from now onwards, and passed an injunction directing all Muslim men to not exercise the right of instant triple talaq.
Okay.
And directed the government of India to pass a law on this instant triple talaq. So the law was being formulated. On December 2017, the bill was presented in the parliament and it was passed in the lower house, the Lok Sabha. Okay. But it got stuck in Rajya Sabha due to some things that were in question by the opposition. Now, so therefore the bill had to be reformulated and had to be presented. Now, in around July August 2018. It came to the notice of Supreme Court that though Supreme Court has given injunction for not exercising the right of instant triple talaq, people are using it. Okay. And there are a lot of women who are getting affected, victimized due to that. So Supreme Court again directed government to speed up the process and do something about this. So then government decided to pass an ordinance through the president. And this ordinance was Muslim women ordinance, which was in line with the Muslim women bill. The government is trying to pass the Muslim women bill, which would become the law. So they passed a Muslim women ordinance in the September of 2018. Now that was for till valid. That is valid till January 2nd of January 2019. Idea was that in the December session, this bill would be passed and the law would be there, and these ordinance would not be required because ordinance have very limited time period validity. But the bill couldn't be passed in 2018 also. The 2018 also it was passed in Lok Sabha, but in Rajya Sabha it got stuck because it was asked. The opposition asked to send it to a special screening committee. But the parliament does not have time and the elections are around the corner. So before the elections, there will be no sitting of parliament. So therefore, so that the people do not misuse this gap, the government just 2-3 days back brought another ordinance so that there would be an ordinance in place till the bill law is there. And this is the Muslim Women Ordinance 2019. The last one is repealed. Now this one would be effective.
This is the exact situation.
This is the exact situation.
I hope you got this. Now, the last explanation you would. I don't think you will be giving or talking for such a long time in an interview.
This is for you.
This is only for you.
What's your take on Sabrimala issue?
Yeah, sir, Sabrimala is Sir, I've read about it. It's a very contentious matter. Sabrimala is a very contentious matter in the sense that the court says that people should be, or all people should be. Should I elaborate about the issue?
You can, yeah. Go ahead.
Sir, Sabrimala is a temple on a hilltop in Kerala. So it's one of the most pious places. It's one of the top pilgrimage places in India for Hindus. Women of a certain age could not worship there for a very long time. So, 1991 there was a High Court judgment that talked about it, that women of menstruating age could not worship there. From 10 to 50 could not worship there. Now, Supreme Court recently overturned that judgment in September last year, saying that it basically violates the right to equality and the right to worship. Both the things have been violated, and everybody should be allowed to go and worship over there. And this is what is creating a problem. So there is a huge row and huge ruckus over it because of the faith of people. Now they are not allowing women to worship over there. So that is what the whole issue is about. Supreme Court has overturned the High Court judgment, which says that women are not allowed. Now everybody is allowed as per the Supreme Court judgment, but people are not allowing that. State government is in a fix because on one side it cannot say that it's not for equality. On the other side, it cannot afford to antagonize the people who believe in traditions and the age-old practices. So this is the problem.
What's the mythological take? Why this, faith? Where does that come from? I think you would be the right person to answer that.
So there are two things. One is that in Hindus, unfortunately, this whole thing, menstruation thing, is considered impure. Fine. So this is one reason that they say, which is, I'll say, unfortunate, that this would become polluted. The place would become polluted if menstruating women are allowed there. So this is one reason, and this also is there in some of the other temples. That's there. But another, and it's a story. You said mythology. It's a story. Is that the deity over there, Lord Ayappa, is celibate. So he practices celibacy. The legend is that there was a demoness that he defeated in the war. So that demoness was to be defeated by the son of Vishnu and Shiva. So Lord Ayappa was the son of Shiva and Mohini. Mohini is like Vishnu only. Mohini is an incarnation of Vishnu. So he defeated this demoness, and this demoness, as happens in mythology, turns into a goddess. Now this goddess wanted to marry Lord Ayappa. But Lord Ayappa had again pledged not to marry, so he wanted to practice celibacy and he could not marry. So this goddess, the demoness who became a goddess afterwards, also is a temple, and they think that she has the first right to marry Lord Ayappa then. So Lord Ayappa had put a condition saying that you can only marry me if people stop visiting me. People never stopped visiting, new devotees never stopped visiting him, and so she could never marry. So one point of view is that if women of this age go and meet Lord Ayappa, then it will be injustice to the goddess. So that is another take on it. So again, it's about faith, that so they think that since the god does not want the women to visit him because he is practicing celibacy, they should not be allowed. So some people very logically also have defended this. They say that one has got right to privacy. So this god has got right to privacy in the sense that he does not want women to visit him, and so they should not be allowed.
What's your take on it?
Sir, as I said, it's a very contentious matter. If you look at the Supreme Court judgment, I am like completely with it. There is like complete violation of right to equality and right to worship if you forbid anybody from visiting that.
What about rights of Lord Ayappa?
Absolutely, sir. So that is where I am coming to. So when it comes to matters of deep faith, it is again, it's not a strict yes or no for me. For the simple reason that if you talk about equality and all, let's say we give them the right to do it. I think it's not worth all the bloodshed and the riots and all the ruckus, all the damage to public property it's going to create. So somebody has to be a little balanced, a little sane over in these matters and decide on it peacefully. So if this right to worship and equality can be executed without resulting in a bloodshed or a loss of property or loss of human life, then it's good. Otherwise, I think it's not worth it.
Even Lord Ayappa would not like it.
Absolutely. Yes, time लिया, दो reason थे. एक तो था कि again I'm not an expert on on banking and all, so I wanted to talk about it. The interviewer was willing to let me talk. So had he said enough, Sabrimala, stop, I would have stopped. Two was to make you aware of what is happening over there. So that is the reason I'm saying that this is not a real interview. So probably in a real interview, I would have explained the same thing in 60% of the time. But I would want to make a mark in something that I know. Fine. So this is important, but yes, took a little more time so that you can understand. If the Supreme Court verdict, आप जब बात करते हो Supreme Court के verdict, you are talking about logic, you are talking about rationale. Let's say I am that judge that gives that decision. मैं भी ये नहीं चाहता वहाँ पर खून खराब हो. That is what I am saying. So I am saying if this equality and everything can be executed, can be implemented without resulting in all these things, do it. Otherwise, I'll say I forbid, give away, relinquish this right of mine to worship over there. So some party has to make a compromise somewhere and say, let it be. I do not want this. घर से प्रार्थना कर लूँगा. Now these are not things on which you can judge me. No, I'm talking about all this in an interview. I might have completely different opinion when I go out of it. But at that point, I have to sound logical, rational, being because इनका कोई सही जवाब नहीं होता है. If I say no sir, it should be implemented, there might be a supporter sitting over there saying ये क्या बकवास है यार, I'm a staunch Hindu, मैं तो ऐसे ही करूँगा. दूसरा भी हो सकता है.
Why you have to offend somebody? Whatever your deep faith or is, you again I told you there is a reason why we have asked you to take that middle ground. If you are so inclined, again, even, to go against our wishes, you are free to. If you can defend, if it's your day, even, all the panel member are also thinking like you will just sail through, you will have fun, you will have ball. But just imagine, if all five are against, you will go in, very bad shape.